Hello, galactic travelers, cosmic crew. What's up? 2018, and we just had another shift. These are happening rapid pace right now. I can't share all of the details of what I was dealing with in a dimension of that I'm on, right, on some of these different missions that we're here to do, that you guys are doing too, and you just don't realize that's what you're doing. And I had already made the board to talk today about the karmic square off, because that's legit what's happening right now. Okay, so I came and did the board. Because all these thoughts were popping in my head, this was on the board yesterday for Pluto and Libra generation, and we didn't get to it. So I wanted to make sure to talk about it today. And then what happened is something that I'm dealing with for all of you guys, having trouble locking in specific things. And what we're finding is that they're little roadblocks that are put up, and it's leading us on a trail, right? And it was obvious to me today, since it had come up so many times, because I didn't catch it the first time when that roadblock came up. My instinct was to veer off in the old energy, to veer off, to stay positive, but to recreate something else. And so what kept happening is every time I would veer off and recreate something else, there would still be some type of roadblock that pops up. Even when we were, purchasing something, saying that we got it, and then 2 days later find out, no, you can't, and now it's not $12, it's worth $60,000. Okay, so that's one example of what we're seeing in these timeline shifts. And today I finally was like, no, that's it, that's enough. And I called it in, and I said, no, we are resetting. And I reset something specific. And 30 minutes later, I had a ovulation. It felt like an ovulation pain, which was like a pain right here where women have our ovaries. And then I fell to the ground because it hurt really bad. I was breathing through it. And when I stood up, I had a shock kundalini took off in the left side of my spine. And I saw these grids, we were pushing through them, and they were just vanishing. So that happened today. And then yesterday at that moon at 22 degrees, right? And I'm not saying this is only happening to me. This is why I'm saying this. That's happening within our body. Yesterday, the 22-degree moon, that was a huge pivot point. We still don't have any Mercury energy going on. So now we have this huge square happening in the chart. What a difference a day makes, right? Energy is totally different. And now this is all tied back to our karmic cycles, because remember, we reset to our original template, and that's what we're going to talk about, because the story that we wrote when we first incarnated here, and for some of us, this could be, 250,000 years ago that we came here to bring something specific, okay? We all have multiple reasons that we came here, but one of the big ones was, especially for Pluto and Virgo and Pluto and Libra generation, which Libra is is a cardinal point, which is where these 22-degree activations are happening back to the original cardinal template. So what does that mean in your personal life? That and in your reality, in your universe or multiverse, that means that if you're dealing with these random now kind of court situations, having to fight corporations, having to deal with situations like I'm dealing with, and locking some of this stuff down that we're building in the physical, child court cases, anything that's dealing with legal, personal, court system, even the governance of technology, which is what is on chart today, relationships, any sacrifice that your soul felt like it was coming in here to make. What's happening, that we've reset to our original template, is that now we're finding ourselves again in these situations, and most of them, these are the ones that we've been battling forever since we first came here, because we were living these programs over and over and over again, not realizing that that's what we were doing. So now that we've reset to our original script, this was the original playbook. Now we're like, oh my gosh, now why am I having to deal with these situations? Well, it's because now that you are in the higher resonance, and now you're above that 3D construct, and which was originally what our energy was intended to do, was to go into the matrix and to create these new ways out. And so what's happening is we're dropping into the matrix, and now realize that you have complete control of that experience, and we have to take back our power in those experiences, especially right now, because this is what is helping the collective break out of these constructs. And so we can't just talk about it anymore. We can't just say, okay, you know, yes, it's a spiritual world, and yes, you know, I'm living outside of the matrix, and then 5 minutes later be worried about when the taxes are due. And if you have Pluto retrograde in your chart, and this is what I talk about with all the coaching sessions, if you have Pluto retrograde, that means that what you physically, how you see your reality, and whatever resonance you perceive that in, and whatever power you take back, meaning, you know, if you're in a child custody situation right now, then why are you even dealing with lawyers? We don't need that construct anymore. It's up to us to pull this Libra that's now in all of us, and including, you know, this Kundalini that I just got was a shot of divine masculine left side. I had a QHHT session too a couple of days ago in the middle of a thunderstorm dealing with this whole left side of this darkness that I was clearing. So I know that that's online for all of us, and this is a merge. So we have that divine feminine, that fairness. So don't, if you're gonna get a divorce, don't just hurry up and jump into the construct that was created, where we have to go get a lawyer, and we have to fight, and we have to argue, and we have to spend all this money. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And whenever you married the person for how long, you have a child together, go work it out. We're in a higher consciousness. I mean, do what you got to do, but don't immediately go back to that original template, because then you're keeping yourself locked into that 3D matrix, and you're not going to experience the flow. And if you're Pluto retrograde, then that means that you're keeping the collective locked in that experience too, even more so than the rest of us, because Pluto is about death and rebirth. And right now, all these cardinal signs and these 22 gateways that we have that are lining up, all preparing for 2020, when Capricorn, 22 degrees of Capricorn, again, Saturn and Jupiter, and, you know, this is what we're charting. But now it's getting to where these shifts are happening daily, and when I'm talking to you guys, and it's I know it's a big shift in order to live that way and completely flow. I know, and I'm not even yelling it. Yesterday I kind of went off on, you know, the people that are talking about the chemtrails and that type of thing, and I want to make sure that I set that straight, because I did it too. There's no judgment in it at all, but for real, when we need to know about it just enough so where we can call back in our power in that situation. And as soon as you do, then you get shock kundalini activations like the one that I just got from doing the thing that I'm telling you. Because that was finally a point within my physical, you know, seed that I had gotten finally to the point. I mean, this has all been leading up, but these are these little shifts. So if you're not shifting, then it's because we aren't doing what we came here to do in that original template, and it's what your intuition is telling you to do the whole time. And the only reason that sometimes we don't do that is because we're so fearful, because this is the first time that these prison doors have been open. You know, before, every single time we came down and we came and signed up to reprogram this matrix to make this more fair for everybody, then it didn't go too well. Well, now, remember, we're back to one. You know, in the movie industry, and it's funny because it's so crazy how, you know, when you get into this awareness and you look back at your life, especially us starseeds, right, that have had, like, every 9 years we have a new life, especially if you were born in the 60s and 70s, because that's what we came here to do. That's what just our energy and our body, you know, how much has technology changed? Think about what adoption was like. Women weren't even working, okay? So all that's happened so fast since the 70s because of our energy frequency. I mean, that's what we were here to do. But every time we went to go do that, then we were manipulated against. Well, when I say that we're back to original template, and when the new energy is online, and I'm living it to show everybody this is happening, this is now available, this is working, because what that means is anything that came against us is now gone. Anything that came against you in any timeline is now gone. This time there is no interference. It's back to one. And what I was talking about was our experiences in this life. And back to one is a movie term. I was in Varsity Blues. I was the Coyote cheerleader coach. 1996, Austin, Texas. Hoot hoot. And everything was back to one. You know, we'd reset up the whole shot. We'd get to the very end. Something wouldn't work out right. Then we'd have to reset everything and go back to one. We are going back to one. What was your original plan when you got here? Because I guarantee it wasn't for us to get trapped into a density and for us to not make our connections, to meet everyone else that's part of our plan, to keep running, to keep going, right? So, you know, I noticed this, I was thinking about this within my life in the corporate world, because in this lifetime, you know, ExxonMobil was my largest client when I was 27 years old. You know, I've dealt with big business for 20-something years in Texas, and look at me. I mean, really. Of course, that's how we're going to show up in order to change the perception of what an entrepreneur and what a businesswoman looks like, right? Well, you know, whenever I was in my 20s and I was working at ExxonMobil and I was still so young in the industry, and I would always look at people's titles and freak out whenever I had to go meet with, you know, a CIO, which is the Chief Information Officer of a large company, who was much older than I, who I perceived as much wiser than I, who I perceived as much fairer than I, because I was naive. Then I would get this anxious feeling about having to go meet them. And I automatically, you know, set myself up to feel inferior to them. And it took a lot of, you know, especially with the constructs that were around us, where, you know, our daddies and our mamas are telling us not to even say any, you know, not to piss off the boss man, you know, because that's what the generation is that I grew up in. And then it wasn't until I had done it myself. It wasn't until I had built my own company and had that title behind my name, that I really felt comfortable walking into those meetings and talking to these men, which was funny because as soon as I got to that point, when I showed up to do business, it's like none of the 20 years of all the crap that I had been like learning had anything to do with it, because the CEOs and the CIOs, they just want to do business with whoever in that energy, you know, they could manipulate, or who was in their best interest. But they weren't worried about all the numbers that the accountants are worried about and all of this and all of this. So you think in your mind that you've got to show up and freaking know everything. And in the end, when I showed up, it was like, oh my gosh, I knew this all along. Why did I wait this long? I could have done this a long time ago. I was actually, but I was doing it for somebody else. So that's really what's happening right now. It's just that it's perceived that, you know, these suits that were the Elite Project, Rex Bear, he calls them the MFers, the money funders. Well, but that construct is falling right now. It's falling because we're the ones collapsing it. So we're back to one. If you're in a situation, whatever situation is coming up in your experience right now, it's a big lesson. Whatever it is. Someone's going to jail, someone's whatever it is, it's a huge, why did you put it in your experience right now? Whenever we're going through this major shift, because that at a soul level is something that we need to either heal through or that we need to really take a look at and learn. Because those of us who have Saturn retrograde, so a lot of us who are Pluto and Libra, who have Chiron and Aries, which is where the original template's going back to reset, when we originally came to Earth, Saturn retrograde means that we are here, Saturn retrograders are here, we're repeating a specific lifetime from the past. So that's why it feels like we've been doing the same thing. It's like you have these crazy deja vu moments. Well, like for me, my Saturn retrograde, I've made that shift now, so it's brand new. I'm not sure what's happening. But see, I do by my soul level, but from a consciousness level, I'm more from the past. Whereas a lot of y'all are from the future. So it's like you've been in a haze up till now, and now you're like in this deja vu because everything's connected. We completed the anchor. And now it's activating in all of us. So I'm going to erase this. This is the karmic square off. Because we've done this before. What's built is already done. And what does that mean? When we talk about timelines collapsing, understand that if you are supposed to come have a session with me, and I'm supposed to have a session with you, let's say in this world it's set up as a starseedology reading, because it's how a lot of us are getting connected and making this happen. But there's all different ways, right? It could be that I was supposed to hit your car and have a car wreck, and then we were supposed to meet, and I've got 9 books to write, by the way, guys. I know I'm writing 9 books to write, and then you, whoever your mission is, you are dealing with the youth, because all of your background, you know, and Ellen, mine's technology, because that's the life path I've been on. So you've been on this life path with the youth, so you know that, and you have 3 kids, so you're going to go the school route right now, but then you have this other mission that you really want to do to bring, you know, you have a book to write. Okay, so we're set to have this meeting. Well, this was in the original plan. This was in the original template when we got here. This was our original play. So what was happening, though, is every time we went back to 1 in the old energy, for some of us hundreds of thousands of years of timelines, and some of us less, but there was interference to where this meeting never happened. Interference, 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 all against free will, all against universal law. So that was that construct that I talk about with the gears. So now what does that mean? That means that we're back to original template. So now listen. This is where we really need to understand, because this is the good stuff. This is what we've been waiting for. It's here. It's here. What's going on is these are ceasing to exist. This is how you were somewhere in 2012 somewhere right now where you were in 2012, because as a collective, we collapsed those first. Those last 7 years, 6 years. So those timelines cease to exist. So what does that mean? You know, because that was all on the 3D. We've broken out of that box. Those game controls, those levels in that video game are no longer even accessible. All right? So the only thing that's keeping them accessible is if we still believe that they exist. So that means, even better than we don't have interference, what that means is that there is a dimension where none of this stuff happened, where my books are written, where your book is written, these schools are built, because that's the dimensional shift. So what I'm saying is that we're going up to meet these synchronicities that are leading us to the people where we're walking back into realities where pieces of these things already exist. And this is how we're collapsing these timelines, and this is how we're going to continue to collapse them all the way to 2020 when we have a complete rewrite. So understand, you know, that for the mega star seeds that are in the cosmic crew, you know, a lot of us have had a lot of this manipulation, a lot of these timeline hacks. And now that we're collapsing all those timelines, this is how we're shooting forward so rapidly. We're quantum leaping right now. We're going to start really seeing it more in the physical. You're going to start seeing it with those of us on this channel for reals. Because this is, I talk about this in my coaching, this is how in my personal life, and this is, again, this is available to everyone. This is how I personally, over the past year, as I was clearing and collapsing my own stuff, before I was to the point where I realized I could do it for the collective. When I was just healing myself, I went from 7 months ago to only knowing that my birth father died in prison, okay, and that was as a rapist, and by cyanide. That's all I knew. To finding my birth father's mother, to finding out that I had 2 great-great-great-grandfathers that are Wikipedia worthy, like mega. Well, that just didn't happen. If I wouldn't have been doing that clearing, then I wouldn't have been collapsing those timelines that was then bumping us all up. And that's how we've been doing this from the inside out. That's, you know, when we get going on the blood, and I guess I'm going to do the blood real quick. I talk about this in coaching. Okay, this is how the blood, this is how this is happening from an energetic blood perspective. The A bloodline was the first one. This is Adam. This is Archangel Michael, if you will. This is Yahshua, if you will. This is the animal seed. This is more the matter. And this is, and even in the Bible, you know, and then if you go back, I mean, this is, the Bible's the most recent account, but this goes back and back and back and back through this twin flame thing. And this is how this got started, because this is the original dragon. This is the original dragon seed. So from the rib, we made B. So from the A bloodline, we made the B bloodline. Well, the B bloodline is your Mary Magdalene, is your Archangel Gabriel, is your galactic etheric. Did I do them all? Is your Eve. Okay? So then, when we had the A and the B, remember, we were clearing karma. We were still clearing karma from these bloodlines. So what that means is that through incarnation, through different timelines, through this physical vessel of whatever our genealogy was, we continued to come back, pick up, and we were clearing karma. So that means once A was cleared, then it dropped out a golden mean. It came, that A line was finally to the perfect resonance where we had learned all the lessons in the A line, and then it was ready to kind of drop out this perfectly blended drop. The same thing happened with the B. So that cleared all of these the karma related to what we might perceive as good, and this might be perceived as bad. So the A and the B then were created. Now this is where this gets interesting, right? Because this is the golden mean. Well, why? Because it is the culmination of these two full bloodlines, then it's that specific frequency. And the AB is what? The universal plasma donor. Now, from the AB, then we brought in the Y. This is where the Zeta and the Alpha Draconic. This is the RH negative. The Y chromosome is more of the galactic hive mind. It's the DNA that we needed in order to get these physical suits to hold enough light and to connect to the planet magnetically, okay? So this was the extra Y, this is the Y that we didn't have in Egypt, right? So we brought in the RH negative, which is only what? The frequency from the past. Like the RH negatives, we've done our job now when we come here and woke up, because no matter what, those frequencies are on the planet, and that's what it was all about. We were the record keepers so that we had all this knowledge whenever we woke up, and we could share it so that we could help everyone else get there too. And praise God, we just finally made it. Okay, so the Y, well, this is the Zeta and the Alpha Draconics. What did the Zetas do? The Zetas were the ones who helped us blend the 22 star nation bloodlines, DNA, the frequency that comes out of our body, where we get our messages, where our energy is coming from. That's how we're all made. And they created the O bloodline. So this is why you have O negatives. This is why you have O positives. This is why you have AB negatives. This is why you have AB positive. And what's crazy is, like, sweet CC, you know, she's an AB. She's not an AB negative. And her and I, in this awakening, when I was having my QHHT session, for example, and she was in Kauai, we just put it together that she was around these ancient trees in the middle of a monastery having and remembering an enlightenment lifetime, while I, at the exact same time in Texas, was in a QHHT session and having a memory of being the tree of knowledge. So it's these programs. And O is what? O is the universal blood donor. So when you have O, this is why O's are just naturally a little bit more blended, meaning you could have 6 or 7 or 2 or 3 star nations that you carry the DNA, but you're not having to clear the karma back to the original seed. That had to be done here to create the plasma, and then that's then how we created the human. And this is how now, whenever the AB negative, this is, you know, JFK, this is Marilyn Monroe, this is a lot of the presidents, this is Joshua is said to be, it's not confirmed, okay, but it makes sense, because when you own your power and when you call it in, then what that means is when I clear this, then I just cleared all lines of A's and B's. And what are O's made of? At the blood level, they're made of the A's and B's. So this is how the energy works. So then when I call that in back to the original seed, then this is how it just takes one. And this is how now that when these changes come in through specific beings that are here with specific frequencies, sometimes these experiences happen in the etheric, where some of y'all are remembering that you've had surgeries on ships, and there's different, you know, some of us carry more of that contract to come do those things in the physical than others, but there are like AA, Anne-Marie. She has that in the physical. In the etheric. Mine's more in the physical. But it's all for the completion of each of us. And so when one of us does it, it's all there. So I wasn't planning on getting off into the blood and all that, but I hope that makes sense. More to come. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So if you get a little bit of vertigo today, just know we're shifting. The divine picture in your mind, the blue energy, your blue energy, that kundalini, your masculine energy with your pink energy in your body. Right now, you don't have any Mercury. I mean, Mercury, what's crazy with Mercury is it's basically just stopping for a couple of days, which is not normal. So you have to feel into it more. You're not going to just have this shock thoughts. You're going to have to feel into your intuition. Use that divine feminine of intuition and intelligence and merge it through your heart. Blend these energies, and whatever situation you're in, remember that you're dropped into those little matrix situations so that you can flow out of it. Keep stating the fair thing. No matter who's coming at you, no matter if they're telling you have to go to this court and you think it's ridiculous because you can see what's happening. State that you see what's happening. Even if you don't think that being in front of you is the one to make the decision, it doesn't matter because you're only teaching it to yourself. So you tell the person, look, I understand your plight. I understand your situation. Here's my perception. And this is what is fair. And we have all full 100% support because it's original template. This is the game that we came here to play. It's no longer blacked out. So as soon as you stand in that sovereignty and keep that there in balance, then within an instant, in your experience, it switches and you get everything that you want and more. And not only that, but then you switch out of that construct and you completely then have activations in your body, your energy soars, and then you just pulled the collective up with you. And now whatever you set straight and fair, it's only perceived that it's only happening within you, but as within, so without. This is how all this got crazy to begin with. So that's what's happening. Okay? I love you all. Let's call in our highest timeline. Don't forget to call it in too. Whenever you're walking into that meeting, you're walking into that court, you're dealing with everything, then don't think about it. Don't create situations that's going to come against you. Remember, your thoughts are reality, so don't pummel it. Don't picture that judge telling you something that now you've got to go figure out and do. You call in the original template of the reason that you're there in order to create fairness for all human beings on this planet in a balanced way, and it will go as divinely as it's supposed to, period. And don't think about it anymore. And then show up and and whatever happens, then you just keep pushing, but don't react. And then what happens is we go, and you just fly out. Time to fly. I call in the highest timeline of all dimensions, of all space and time, in this now. Hoot, hoot.